Tarantino and Coen Brothers movies seem to make us laugh and still feel the narrative drama through new and non-stereotypical elements. Yet these seemingly random components from a general audience point of view are instead expertly crafted parts of a whole. Dialogue in these films is written where no other screenwriter would be willing to go, crass and sometimes seemingly random, yet it's these dialogues that make the characters richer, more believable, and overall more interesting. Now you might be thinking, how is the dude anything like Vincent Vega or Walter? Both these films identify with a theme of what it means to be a man, and the ramifications of losing that masculinity. The first film I'm going to identify is Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is a story of, well, many stories. As the name implies, Pulp Fiction refers to the pulp magazines in the 1940s that usually were laid out in a serial or episodic format. These pulp magazines were usually crime thrillers and were the precursors to modern-day comic books and superheroes. Because there are so many intertwining narratives, I'll just stick to the main ones. There's the story of Vincent Vega trying to get a briefcase for the gangster of Marcellus Wallace, as well as having to take his wife out to have a nice night at a dance. The second major plot is the story of Butch, the boxer, who's trying to screw over Marcellus Wallace and all the other gangsters to prove his intelligence. Later in the film, he also tries to get back his father's watch. There's a lot of analysis that can come from this film, and I won't be able to cover it all, so let's dive right in. Scene 1. Hamburgers. In this string of scenes, Vincent and Jules, the hitmen, have to go out and find a MacGuffin briefcase belonging to Marcellus that has been taken by one of the cronies. The relevance of hamburgers is a representation of manhood, but in that scrambled manhood. Furthermore, the fact that Jules eats the guy's hamburger means that he is eating his manhood, taking it away slowly and surely as the interrogation continues. The victim becomes more and more afraid, losing his manhood slowly but surely. The cinematography in this scene is stereotypical to say the least. You have low angles on Samuel L. Jackson showing his dominance, and higher up angles aiming down at the guy being interrogated. Questions raised by this scene are, do men have to put on an act of masculinity to achieve their goals? Beforehand, in the hallway, Jules said to put on the act, implying that this macho hitman is really an act. You can see in their dialogue scenes. In fact, they're normal people, kind of sheepish at that. This is explained during the suit removal scene. Speaking of hamburger meat, when Vincent shoots Marvin in the back of the car, Vincent and Jules must take off their suits and rely on a neighborhood contact in order to survive. The wolf washes them off, along with a cameo by Tarantino, as they discuss how silly they feel without the suits. By removing the suits, they symbolically have taken away their masculinity. The suits were not only a representation of their empowerment as men physically, but also societally as well. Without their coats of armor, their suits, the hitmen are just as vulnerable as normal people. Another technique in cinematography that will be used also in The Big Lebowski is the cutting back and forth between two shots to show contrast between characters. Next, I'll be talking about the scene with Butch, the sword, and the gimp. In this scene, Butch unfortunately runs into the main man he's trying to avoid, Marcellus Wallace. After they both end up in a dungeon, Marcellus Wallace is raped. This is ironic because throughout the film he uses anal metaphors, saying that
I'ma get medieval on your ass.
And the man who we've seen as a faceless authority has finally been personified and his manhood stripped away. This also brings up the idea of honor. When Butch goes back to save Marcellus, he takes not any of the other weapons on the wall, but a samurai sword. The samurai sword is a symbol of honor. Should Butch go back and save Marcellus Wallace? It is suggested that because of Butch's long line of military history, honor has been present in his family for a long time and one of the core values of their beliefs. In The Great Lebowski, man is the most common word in the film. Appropriately so, as each of them are really analogs for different perceptions of what manhood really is and the ramifications of its loss. Phallic symbols abound. The Big Lebowski tells the story of the dude Lebowski, who must save a rich man's wife from an adult film boss whom she owes money to. The plot is based off of the film noir The Big Sleep, starring Humphrey Bogart. The Big Lebowski, however, is a story of figurative castration, or losing the qualities that make one a man. How one defines those qualities is represented in the many characters of the film. Each male character in The Big Lebowski shows a different side of what it is to be a man. The question that the film asks can be wrapped up in the scene with the dude and the millionaire Lebowski. What is it to be a man? As the dude stares into the Man of the Year time mirror. In stark contrast to the bowling scenes between the friends, the millionaire Lebowski and the dude Lebowski are never framed in the same shot. The two-shot between the Lebowskis creates a physiological and psychological divide and contrast between the characters, not in physicalities but also ideology. Furthermore, the shot of the dude utilizes many slanted lines, reinforcing the dude's lazy nature. The millionaire is framed along the third line strictly, and the scene utilizes a lot of horizontal lines to reinforce the monolithic and solid stature of the millionaire. The dialogue in the scene cements the contrasts of character. The millionaire has no time, refuses to pay for the hippie's inconsequential rug. The dude speaks in long, drawn-out sentences, putzing his way through the conversation at a measly pace, going, and addressing him as man. The millionaire Lebowski instead speaks to him quickly and in haste, as if time is of the essence, time is money, but in boasting and overcompensating, yet gentleman tone, addressing the dude as sir. As soon as the millionaire's wife is mentioned, however, he becomes enraged by his insecurities and takes no responsibility for her spending of the money, ultimately leading to the dude's rug getting peed on. The dude expects the millionaire Lebowski to take responsibility for others, while also trying to remove responsibility from himself. The millionaire says that every bum's lot in life is to take his own responsibility. Furthermore, the mise-en-scène and the design of the scene further reinforces its characterization and meaning. The wall is filled with the awards and trophies of the millionaire's past achievement. The millionaire's outfit is a perfectly dressed suit, yet he is fat, bald, and in a wheelchair. In contrast, the dude wears shorts, has very long hair, and slouches, but is physically in shape. The dude puts his sunglasses on when he begins to lose the argument, a literal cover to the truth, whereas the millionaire has clear glasses. The questions brought up by this scene are many. Is it more manly to be dressed in a suit and wealthy, taking responsibility for yourself but no others? Or is it less manly to rely on others like the dude does, trying to shift responsibility from himself? Or is it better to be happy or to achieve? The fact that the millionaire Lebowski lost his legs in Korea suggests that he has been symbolically castrated as well, his physical manhood gone and immobilizing him from the waist down in the wheelchair. He can never be a complete man, and this is further emphasized by his covering of emotional insecurity with his proud, hardworking history. The scene ends with the dude saying, "Eff it," taking no responsibility and giving up, not wanting to argue anymore. The scenes that come to mind also when we think of masculinity are the Market Zero scene and the Pete on my rug scene that precedes the millionaire scene, both of which take place in the bowling alley that Donnie, Walter, and the dude frequent. In this scene, along with all the other scenes in the bowling alley, we see Walter as a perception of manhood. Walter sees himself as manly, wielding guns and resorting to violence, talking about his ex-military service, while ultimately being submissive to his ex-wife. Walter begins the scene by reciting a quote about the Jewish state of Israel, in a way that suggests that he has heard it many times, most likely from his ex-wife. In the other scene, he yells violently about not being able to bowl on the Jewish day of rest. And this is ironic because he only converted to Judaism because of his wife. Furthermore, in the scene, he has to take care of his ex-wife's dog while she and her boyfriend are in Hawaii. Moreover, Walter's insistence of following the rules and resorting to violence when they are not followed is a compensation for his submission to his ex-wife. The dude says that it's just a game and that he should calm down, while Walter overreacts because his value of structure and rules defines how he takes in the situation. The cinematography of the scene is also very similar in using techniques from the millionaire scene. Walter, the dude, and Donnie are all framed together while Smokey is cut to. Dynamic lines are drawn from Walter when he points the gun, and flat lines are drawn from Smokey. This suggests that Walter is the dynamic motion in the scene. He is the one disrupting the natural pace of things. However, his insistence on rules and structure contrasts with this idea. Something that most people might not notice is that Donnie is framed between the dude and Walter in all the bowling scenes, or in between Walter and Smokey. This represents the neutrality of Donnie's character, and sometimes inconsequentialness, as he is constantly told to shut the fuck up by Walter. The peed on my rug dialogue is a little harder to decipher. Firstly, the idea that the Chinaman peed on his rug, essentially marking his territory as a man, is relevant to the whole masculinity idea. Overall, the cinematography, the design, and the seemingly random dialogue from Donnie, Walter, and the dude is not only used as characterization, but also as meaning to the story, rather than telling the plot, as many screenwriters would do. In conclusion, Pulp Fiction and The Great Lebowski are films that identify different perspectives on what it means to be a man. And through cinematography, mise-en-scène, design, and dialogue, masculinity can be seen in many categories: honor, position, wealth, responsibility, status, control, violence, force, dominance, or by visual. But it seems that none of the characters in these films contain all the qualities, suggesting that there is no perfect man, and that no person can identify with every single one of these values. But you can succeed by following one thoroughly.